Article in Haaretz today exposes something that we've all known for quite a long time, but we don't talk about it nearly enough. They say, quote, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Monday that if he were to be reelected, a Palestinian state would not be created, in a definite disavowal of his 2009 speech in which he had voiced support for the principle of two states for two peoples. So, he may have paid lip service in 2009 to the idea of two states, but as we've reported on in the past, that was just lip service because there were, behind-the-scenes recordings of him essentially saying the opposite, that all along he wasn't in favor of a two-state solution. And this is something that anybody who follows the ins and outs of the situation in Israel-Palestine to begin with knows. We all know that. I mean, for fuck's sake, Israel just annexed a lot more land after this recent incursion into Gaza. So, what's the argument from people who argue he's for a two-state solution? Yeah, see, what he's going to do is he's going to annex more land, and then when they go and negotiate later to do a two-state solution, he's going to give away the land that he just grabbed and give away more land. There is no argument that he's in favor of a two-state solution. Anybody who thinks he's in favor of a two-state solution is silly. Or they're working backwards from their conclusion, which is Netanyahu has to be a good guy and Israel has to be right about absolutely everything. So it's just a sad thing when you see people who are still at this point defenders of Netanyahu and what he's doing. I mean, also, let's not forget that Israel recently rejected and mocked a proposal for a two-state solution from the Palestinians. It was presented through Jordan at the UN because, of course, the Palestinians can't present it because they're not a fucking state. Gee, I wonder who's blocking that. And they said, okay, 1967 borders, so you guys still get a fantastic deal. They're not asking, hey, go back to 1947, which is what Israel originally was. They're saying, no, okay, 1967. And then we'll sit down at the table together and iron out all the details. So let's split up Jerusalem, do 1967, and then we'll figure everything out, and we'll give ourselves a few years to get all the specifics down. What do you guys say? They rejected it out of hand. Rejected it out of hand. If you're rejecting that out of hand, there's no where are we going to go from here? What do you mean? I mean, because that's the compromise area. The compromise area is not the 1967 borders. So what do you mean? What do you mean you're going to reject it out of hand? What that means is, I'm not interested in a fucking two-state solution. That's what that means. He said, quote, I think that anyone who moves to establish a Palestinian state and evacuate territory gives territory away to radical Islamist attacks against Israel. The left has buried its head in the sand time after time and ignores this. But we are realistic and understand. During the interview, Netanyahu declared that if the opposition were to win the elections, quote, it would attach itself to the international community and do their bidding. I love how he says that with a negative connotation. Like, oh, these assholes follow international law. Pfft, dicks. He says, including freezing construction in West Bank and East Jerusalem settlements and cooperate with international initiatives to return Israel's borders to the 1967 lines. Again, I don't know how the fuck he mocks that. He's like, oh, these assholes over here, they want to, listen to international law and negotiate with people and try to get lasting peace. Ugh, gross. They would even freeze the settlements on the land that we just stole. How crazy is that? Look, man, if you are somebody who's still defending Netanyahu, oh, God, you're so stupid. Because you're actually hurting Israel. Do you understand that? That's why I always find hilarious when people call me anti-Israel. I'm trying to get a two-state solution where both sides get full UN recognition and everybody's treated equally and fairly. So how am I anti-Israel? My proposals would make the people of Israel safe. Netanyahu would make them less safe, and he does make them less safe, the same way that George W. Bush and Dick Cheney make the United States of America less safe. Because he goes on the offense, he attacks, he kills people, he kills innocent people oftentimes, he further radicalizes the region, and then he turns around and says, see, those sons of bitches were savages anyway, they're radical, so what am I supposed to do with them? Well, maybe if you didn't further radicalize them and you weren't so aggressive and offensive, and you actually sat down at the table and negotiated, maybe that wouldn't be the case. And in fact, this isn't just speculation, because Netanyahu said that if he loses the elections, Palestinians would create a, quote, Hamas Stan B. Hamas Stan. So, in other words, any kind of negotiation with Palestinians equals caving to Hamas, and we can't do that. So, therefore, you're saying no two-state solution. Very simple, right? That's what you're saying. But again, the irony is, he's like, the other side helps Hamas. Look at them. Funny, because I looked at a poll from directly after the offensive into Gaza from Netanyahu, and you know what I found? Approval shot up for Hamas after Netanyahu's Gaza invasion. So before the fiasco where they went in there and slaughtered civilians, Hamas had a 41% approval rating. Afterwards, 61%. You know who helps Hamas? You.